Hey everybody, this is Nick Ebelhair from the University of Evansville bass fishing team. Since this is my senior year, I thought it'd be a good idea to thought it'd be fun to come up with like a video after each tournament and basically give a recap of how I caught them and where I caught them and things like that. Over spring break, we spent 2 weeks. Well, we had back-to-back tournaments on Kentucky Lake, and one was the Big Bass Bash by Cabela's Collegiate series, and the weekend after we fished the FLW College Open, which was the biggest college tournament ever. There's 194 boats in that one. So I thought I'd just break down how I caught them and type of things I was keying on to catch some fish down there. First off, over spring break, we started by we ended up going down Monday and fishing all week leading up to the Big Bass Bash, and that's a one fish tournament where you bring in your biggest fish. We really struggled towards the beginning of the week, and then on the Wednesday of practice I ended up catching a real big one on a black and blue football jig, and that's a homemade football jig that I make at home, and had a blue sapphire trailer on it. Fish ended up weighing just shy of 7 pounds on my scale, but that was the only bass I caught that entire day. We really struggled figuring out how to catch multiple fish. Didn't get a whole lot of bites. The first 2 days we were down there, didn't get any bites. We started catching a few later in the week on an A rig, Alabama rig, and also on Friday of practice they ended up getting pretty shallow. Water warmed up quite a bit. I think when we got down there on Monday the water temp was 38 degrees, and we ended up finding 57 by the time we left on Sunday, so it warmed up quite a bit. The Friday of practice we were catching them pretty shallow on Alabama rigs and red rattle traps. Leading into the Big Bass Bash, we didn't really know what we were going to do. We ended up focusing on like lead-in banks on the LBL side, because those tended to, the land between the lake side was warming up a lot faster and the water was clearer than the opposite side on the west. So we focused on that area and ended up running up to one of the bays on the LBL side. We headed north on the first day of the Big Bass Bash, and I ended up catching one about 3.5 right off the bat, but that's not really big enough to win anything in the Big Bass Bash. So my partner Gilbert ended up catching one about 4, but other than that we caught a few short fish and some smaller keepers, but that's about it. So day one wasn't very good. We didn't win any of the prizes, but we weighed in 2 decent fish. However, our other team ended up catching some really big fish down south. So day 2 we decided to run down there and fish the same area they were fishing. There's a bunch of boat pressure, but we still pulled in there. There's probably 5 or 6 boats on like a 150-yard stretch, but pulled in there and started throwing an Alabama rig around, and my partner Gilbert caught one that weighed 7 pounds even. Ended up being the biggest fish of the day, and we ended up actually getting a camera boat to follow us back to our spot, and unfortunately we didn't catch any fish after the camera boat left us, or after the camera boat got on our boat. So other than that, I ended up catching a 3.5 pounder late in the day on a chatterbait, white chatterbait, but that, once again, that's not big enough to do anything in a Big Bass Bash. So after that we moved on to the College Open, which is FLW College Open, which was the first time they've ever had a College Open. The top 10 in that tournament go straight to the 2016 National Championship, and being in the National Championship last year was a great experience, and I was really hoping to get back. Unfortunately, we'll have to do that through the qualifying events. We ended up finishing 57th overall out of 194 boats. A little bit about how we caught them. we ran back down to the same area we fished in the Big Bass Bash. So rather than launching at Paris, we had to launch at Moores that time. So it was about a 45 mile run. It's quite a bit of gas, and we ran all the way down there and didn't really catch a whole lot of fish. We caught 3 keepers, I think, from that bay we were fishing in, and we caught 1 on a chatterbait and 2 on a Alabama rig. And then when we were running back, we ended up fishing those lead-in banks, and anywhere we found chunk rock or big black rocks right at the mouth of the bay, close to deep water. Basically, we had the boat sitting in about 20 to 29 feet of water, and we're throwing these Alabama rigs around and reeling them back real slow, and we were able to catch some of those fish that way. So we ended up catching 3 down there in that bay way down south, and then we caught 4 keepers on our way back to the weigh-in, just hitting random spots that looked good and spots that we caught them in practice the past week. Other than that, we ended up catching 7 keepers the first day of the College Open, which was a lot more than we expected. We never really got a big bite. I think our biggest fish that day was probably maybe close to 3.5 pounds. So really, we had 5 decent fish. We would have caught, if we would have had 1 real big bite, it would have helped our bag a lot. But that's fishing, and you can't really do anything about it. So the second day, we ended up going back to the same area. It was another 45 miles. It was a lot foggier that day, and it took us a lot longer to get down there, so that kind of cut into our fishing time. Plus, we had a lot shorter day because of our boat draw, and kind of messed up some of the timing we had going on. We didn't catch a fish till about 10:30, and my partner Lee, caught it on a football jig. Ended up weighing 2.5 pounds, and we didn't catch a keeper the rest of the day. We're kind of disappointed. We were in 28th out of 194 after the first day, and then ended up dropping quite a bit. We ended up 57th. So I'm not sure where the fish went. I think it's either too much fishing pressure, or it just ran out of fish. But I would have thought that those fish would be moving in there, but it just didn't happen. Then on the way back, I guess we caught 4 keepers the day before, and I thought we could catch some coming back, but we kind of ran out of time and didn't time it out right, and kind of messed that up. So we ended up weighing 17 pounds and 2 ounces for 2 days, which isn't as bad as I thought we could have done, but we would have liked to have done better. So a little bit about what I caught them on. The Alabama rig I was using, it's just an Alabama rig, 5 wires. It had blades on it. I think the blades were the most important thing. I used 1/8 ounce jig heads, and on those 1/8 ounce jig heads I put the Havoc beach shad. That's just the swim bait that Havoc makes, and I think it's got a lot of action, and really was key to us catching these fish. I ended up using white almost exclusively, just because the water was kind of muddy, and it really kind of, gave the fish more of a chance to see the bait. As far as crankbaits, I caught a few fish on this DT6, but nothing really in the tournaments to weigh in. Also in practice, we caught some on this, I'm not sure what the color is called, but it's a XR50 rattle trap made by Excalibur. And then the final thing we caught them on really was the chatterbait, and I used this white chatterbait, and I had a Havoc beach shad on the back of that one. Just matched it with a white Havoc beach shad. For the Alabama rig, as far as reels and rods, I used this new Frog Series rod I got from Abu Garcia. It's a Veritas Frog Series rod, and I matched that with a Revo winch. Having the winch on here basically allowed me to really slow down the bait, and it's really important when you're throwing the Alabama rig a lot of times to fish really slow. You want to get to the depth and just fish it real slow. Other than that, for the chatterbait, I threw the Alabama rig on 20-pound Berkeley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. A lot of guys throw that on braid, but I think that throwing on fluorocarbon gives you an advantage because they don't see it as much, and that's strong enough to hold up to anything you need it for. For crankbaits, I threw that on this new Abu Garcia Veritas winch series rod, and I had that on I had a Revo SX reel on there, and I had 15 pound Berkeley 100% fluorocarbon trilene. And then other than that, the only other bait I really threw was a jig. I threw a jig a lot, and I really only caught one fish on it. Was the fish in practice was the biggest fish I caught while I was down there. And for jigs, I throw that on Veritas 7-foot medium heavy. This reel that I have on there is a Revo Premier. That's a really good, really lightweight reel, and seems to work out for what I use it for. Other than that, I think our next tournament is on Table Rock, so we're looking forward to that. Might probably be throwing Alabama rig around a little bit more, crankbaits. Probably not so much Alabama rig, but more crankbaits and things like that as the fish move shallow. Yeah, other than that, we're going to Table Rock next is April 11th, and then Lake Chickamauga. We'll be going to Lake Chickamauga on the weekend after, which will be the College Open. So staying pretty busy, and hopefully we'll do better next time. But just thought I'd give you guys a little update, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Thanks.